Welcome to today's deep dive into one of the most fundamental yet misunderstood aspects of athletic excellence: how elite athletes actually set and pursue goals. We're not talking about motivational poster platitudes or vague aspirations to be the best. We're examining the specific, evidence based frameworks that separate champions from everyone else who dreams of greatness. The research we're exploring today, drawn from systematic reviews and meta analyses covering thousands of athletes, reveals something profound. Elite athletes don't just set different goals than recreational athletes, they use entirely different goal setting systems. These systems are structured, multi layered, and grounded in decades of psychological research. More importantly, they work. Athletes using these frameworks show measurably better performance, higher motivation, and greater training adherence than those using traditional or informal approaches. Let's start with a fundamental truth that might surprise you. Not all goals are created equal. In fact, the type of goal you set has a dramatic impact on your likelihood of achieving it. The research consistently shows that process goals, focusing on specific actions or techniques, have the largest positive effect on athletic performance. Performance goals, targeting personal standards, come second, and outcome goals, focused on winning or placing, have the smallest effect. This hierarchy flips conventional wisdom on its head, yet it's been validated across multiple sports and competitive levels. Think about what this means. The athlete obsessed with winning gold might actually be undermining their chances by focusing on that outcome. The athlete focused on perfecting their technique, maintaining their form, or executing their strategy is more likely to achieve that gold medal as a byproduct of their process focus. It's a paradox that elite athletes and their coaches have internalized. To achieve the outcome you want, you must release your attachment to it and focus on the process that creates it. The SMART framework, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, has become ubiquitous in goal setting, but elite athletes apply it with a sophistication that goes beyond the acronym. When an elite swimmer sets a goal to improve their 100-meter time, they don't just say, swim faster. They might set a specific goal to reduce their stroke count by 2 strokes per lap while maintaining their current speed, measurable through video analysis, achievable based on their current efficiency metrics, relevant to their competitive strategy, and time bound to achieve within a 6-week training block. But here's where it gets interesting. Elite athletes don't use SMART goals in isolation. They embed them within a larger framework that includes process, performance, and outcome goals working in harmony. This multi level approach creates what researchers call a goal hierarchy, where each level supports and reinforces the others. Let me paint a picture of how this works in practice. An elite marathon runner might have an outcome goal to qualify for the Olympics. That's the dream, the ultimate destination. But they don't train with that as their daily focus. Instead, they have performance goals, perhaps running a 2:10 marathon based on what's typically needed for Olympic qualification. These performance goals are personal standards within their control, unlike the outcome goal, which depends on how others perform. Below these performance goals sit multiple process goals that form the foundation of daily training. These might include maintaining a specific cadence of 180 steps per minute, executing a nutrition strategy of consuming 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour during long runs, or completing specific strength training exercises 3 times per week. Each process goal is a concrete action that, when accumulated over time, drives the performance improvements necessary to achieve the outcome. This hierarchical structure serves multiple psychological functions. Process goals provide daily wins and maintain motivation during the long grind of training. Performance goals offer periodic validation of progress and adjustment points for training. Outcome goals provide meaning and direction to the entire enterprise. Remove any level, and the system becomes less effective. The research reveals another crucial distinction in how elite athletes approach goals: the difference between mastery orientation and ego orientation. Athletes with mastery orientation focus on improving their own skills and performance. They measure success by personal growth and skill development. Athletes with ego orientation focus on outperforming others, measuring success through comparison and competition rankings. Here's what's fascinating. While you might expect elite athletes to be highly ego oriented given the competitive nature of sport, the research shows that the most successful athletes tend to be mastery oriented or have what's called a high profile, high in both mastery and ego orientation. Pure ego orientation, focusing solely on beating others, is actually associated with higher anxiety, increased risk of burnout, and ironically, poorer performance. Why? Mastery orientation provides a buffer against the inevitable setbacks in sport. When you're focused on personal improvement, a loss doesn't devastate your motivation because you can still identify areas where you improved. When you're purely ego oriented, second place is failure regardless of personal improvement. Mastery orientation also maintains motivation during training when there's no one to beat, no rankings to chase, just the daily work of improvement. Elite athletes have learned to leverage both orientations strategically. They might tap into ego orientation for motivation during competition, wanting to beat specific rivals, while maintaining mastery orientation as their primary framework. This flexibility allows them to harness the motivational power of competition without becoming dependent on it for validation. Goal setting theory, the foundational framework underlying much of sports psychology's approach to goals, identifies several critical moderators that determine whether goals improve performance. These aren't just academic concepts, they're the variables that elite athletes and coaches manipulate to optimize their goal setting systems. First is goal difficulty. The research is clear. Moderate to difficult goals produce better performance than easy goals or do your best goals. Elite athletes consistently set goals at the edge of their current capabilities, challenging enough to require growth, but not so difficult as to seem impossible. This sweet spot, which researchers call the zone of optimal challenge, varies by individual and changes as skills develop. Finding this zone requires sophisticated self awareness and often external feedback from coaches. An elite gymnast learning a new routine doesn't set a goal to perform it perfectly immediately. They might set progressive goals, first to complete the routine without falls, then to achieve specific execution scores on individual elements, gradually raising the bar as each level is mastered. Goal specificity is another critical factor. Vague goals like improve my game or get stronger don't provide the clear direction necessary for focused effort. Elite athletes set precise goals. Increase my serve percentage from 58% to 65%, or improve my back squat by 15 kilograms. This specificity serves multiple functions. It clarifies exactly what needs to be done, enables accurate progress tracking, and provides clear feedback on whether the goal has been achieved. But here's a nuance that's often missed. Elite athletes balance specificity with flexibility. They set specific goals but remain adaptable when circumstances change. An injury, unexpected competition results, or training breakthroughs might necessitate goal adjustment. This isn't failure or giving up, it's intelligent adaptation to maintain optimal challenge and motivation. The role of feedback in goal effectiveness cannot be overstated. Goals without feedback are like sailing without a compass. You might be moving, but you don't know if you're heading in the right direction. Elite athletes build elaborate feedback systems into their training. They use video analysis, biomechanical assessment, physiological testing, and constant coach observation to monitor progress toward their goals. This feedback isn't just about measuring outcomes, it includes process feedback, information about whether they're executing the behaviors and strategies outlined in their process goals. A tennis player working on their serve doesn't just track the percentage of first serves in play. They monitor their toss consistency, their weight transfer, their racket head speed at contact. Each element provides feedback on a specific aspect of the process. The commitment factor in goal achievement is particularly interesting in elite sports. Research shows that self set or collaboratively set goals generate higher commitment than assigned goals. Elite athletes are deeply involved in their goal setting process, working with coaches to establish goals that are personally meaningful and strategically sound. This isn't about coaches abdicating responsibility. It's about creating buy in and ownership that sustains motivation through the inevitable challenges of training. Public goal monitoring has emerged as a powerful tool for enhancing both motivation and adherence. When athletes publicly track and share their goals, whether with teammates, coaches, or even social media followers, they show increased motivation and better training attendance. This isn't about external pressure or shame, it's about accountability and social support. Elite training environments often include goal boards, team meetings where goals are discussed, and regular check ins that keep goals visible and present. The temporal aspect of goal setting in elite sports is sophisticated and strategic. Athletes work with multiple time horizons simultaneously. They have long term goals spanning Olympic cycles or entire careers, medium term goals covering seasons or specific training phases, short term goals for training blocks or competitions, and daily goals for individual training sessions. Each temporal level serves different psychological and practical functions. Long term goals provide meaning and direction, helping athletes persist through difficult periods. Medium term goals create structure for training periodization and allow for systematic progression. Short term goals maintain daily motivation and enable rapid adjustment based on feedback. Daily goals translate all the planning into concrete action. An elite swimmer preparing for the Olympics might have a 4 year goal to win gold, a 1 year goal to achieve specific times in their events, monthly goals for training volume and intensity, weekly goals for technical improvements, and daily goals for specific sets and exercises. This temporal scaffolding ensures that every training session connects to the ultimate objective while maintaining flexibility for adjustment at each level. The emotional and cognitive mechanisms underlying goal effectiveness are where the science gets really interesting. Goals don't magically improve performance. They work through specific psychological pathways that elite athletes have learned to optimize. Self efficacy, belief in one's ability to achieve specific goals, emerges as a critical mediator. Goals enhance performance partly by building self efficacy through progressive achievement. Each accomplished goal provides evidence of capability, strengthening belief in future goal achievement. Elite athletes and coaches understand this mechanism and structure goals to build self efficacy systematically. This is why process goals are so powerful. They provide frequent opportunities for success, constantly reinforcing self efficacy. An athlete who achieves their process goal of maintaining proper form throughout a training session experiences an efficacy boost regardless of their time or placement. These small wins accumulate into robust self belief that sustains performance under pressure. But here's where it gets complex. The relationship between goals and emotions isn't always positive. Goals can trigger anxiety, fear of failure, and feelings of inadequacy when they're perceived as threatening rather than challenging. Elite athletes have learned to regulate these emotional responses through various strategies. Cognitive reappraisal, reframing situations from threats to challenges, is a common strategy. An elite athlete facing a difficult goal doesn't see it as a test that might expose their inadequacy. They see it as an opportunity to discover their capabilities, to push their boundaries, to learn something about themselves. This isn't positive thinking or denial. It's a sophisticated cognitive strategy that changes the emotional experience of goal pursuit. Emotion regulation extends beyond just managing negative emotions. Elite athletes have learned to harness emotions strategically. They might use anger or frustration as fuel for intense training sessions. They might cultivate excitement rather than trying to stay calm before competition. The key is not eliminating emotions, but developing the skills to work with them productively. The research reveals that athletes who effectively regulate their emotions show less anxiety and greater goal achievement. But this isn't about suppression or control in the traditional sense. It's about developing what researchers call emotional flexibility, the ability to experience and express emotions while maintaining focus on goal relevant actions. The social dimension of goal setting in elite sports adds another layer of complexity. Goals aren't pursued in isolation. They're embedded in relationships with coaches, teammates, support staff, and even competitors. Elite athletes have learned to leverage these relationships to enhance their goal pursuit. Coach athlete goal collaboration is particularly crucial. The most effective goal setting processes involve genuine dialogue where athletes' personal aspirations and coaches' technical expertise merge. This isn't about coaches imposing goals or athletes setting goals without guidance. It's a collaborative process that respects both perspectives and creates goals that are both personally meaningful and strategically sound. Teammates play a unique role in goal support. Training partners might share process goals, creating mutual accountability and support. Team sports add complexity, with individual goals needing to align with team objectives. Elite teams have learned to manage this complexity through clear communication and goal alignment processes that respect both individual development and collective success. The role of competition in goal setting deserves special attention. Competitors aren't just obstacles to outcome goals, they're catalysts for performance improvement. Elite athletes often set goals in relation to specific competitors, not just to beat them, but to match their training volumes, their technical innovations, their mental approaches. This competitive benchmarking drives innovation and prevents complacency. Cultural factors influence how goals are set and pursued in different sporting contexts. Individual sport athletes from cultures emphasizing personal achievement might naturally gravitate toward outcome and ego oriented goals. Team sport athletes from collectivist cultures might emphasize process and mastery goals that contribute to group harmony. Elite athletes who compete internationally have learned to navigate these cultural differences, adapting their goal setting approaches to different contexts. The periodization of goals throughout a competitive season represents another level of sophistication in elite goal setting. Goals aren't static, they evolve systematically throughout training cycles. During preparation phases, process and mastery goals might dominate. As competition approaches, performance goals become more prominent. During competition, outcome goals might take precedence, though never exclusively. This periodization isn't just about changing goal content, it's about adjusting goal difficulty, specificity, and time horizons to match training demands and psychological needs. Early season goals might be more flexible and exploratory. Mid season goals become more specific and challenging. Late season goals might focus on consistency and execution under pressure. Recovery periods have their own goal structures. Elite athletes don't just stop setting goals during off seasons. They set goals for rest, for mental recovery, for addressing weaknesses without the pressure of competition. These recovery goals are crucial for long term development and injury prevention, though they're often overlooked in discussions of athletic goal setting. The integration of goals with other psychological skills training represents advanced practice in elite sports. Goals don't exist in isolation from visualization, self talk, arousal regulation, and other mental skills. Elite athletes learn to integrate these skills synergistically. Visualization sessions might involve mentally rehearsing the achievement of specific process goals. Self talk might include goal focused cues that direct attention to process elements. Pre competition routines might include reviewing goals to focus attention and motivation. This integration multiplies the effectiveness of both goal setting and other psychological skills. Technology has transformed how elite athletes set and monitor goals. GPS tracking, heart rate monitoring, power meters, and video analysis provide unprecedented feedback on goal progress. Mobile apps allow real time goal tracking and adjustment. Data analytics identify patterns and trends that inform goal modification. But technology also presents challenges. The abundance of data can lead to paralysis by analysis. The ease of tracking everything can distract from what's truly important. Elite athletes and coaches have learned to be selective, choosing metrics that directly relate to meaningful goals rather than tracking everything possible. The long term development perspective on goal setting reveals how elite athletes' approaches evolve throughout their careers. Young athletes might focus primarily on process goals and skill development. As they mature, performance goals become more prominent. Veteran athletes might return to process and mastery orientation as they seek to extend their careers and find new sources of motivation. This developmental progression isn't linear or universal. Some athletes maintain consistent goal approaches throughout their careers. Others dramatically shift their orientation based on experiences, coaches, or life circumstances. The key is that elite athletes remain conscious and intentional about their goal setting approaches, adjusting based on what serves their current needs. Failure and setback management through goal adjustment is a critical but often underdiscussed aspect of elite goal setting. Not all goals are achieved, and how athletes respond to goal failure often determines their ultimate success. Elite athletes have learned to treat unachieved goals not as failures, but as information. When a goal isn't achieved, elite athletes and coaches conduct systematic analysis. Was the goal too difficult? Was the process inadequate? Were there uncontrollable factors? This analysis informs goal adjustment, not abandonment, but intelligent modification based on new information. This resilience in goal pursuit, the ability to adjust without losing motivation, distinguishes elite from recreational athletes. The transfer of goal setting skills beyond sport is an interesting phenomenon observed in elite athletes. Many report that the goal setting skills developed in sport enhance their performance in education, career, and personal domains. The discipline of setting specific, challenging goals, monitoring progress, and adjusting based on feedback becomes a life skill that extends far beyond athletic performance. This transfer isn't automatic, it requires conscious application, but elite athletes who successfully transition to post sport careers often credit their goal setting abilities as crucial to their success. They've learned not just to set goals, but to create systems for achieving them, a meta skill valuable in any domain. The role of identity in goal setting adds psychological depth to our understanding. Goals aren't just about what athletes want to achieve, they're about who they want to become. Elite athletes' goals reflect and shape their athletic identity. Process goals might reflect identity as a technical perfectionist. Outcome goals might reflect identity as a fierce competitor. Mastery goals might reflect identity as a lifelong learner. This identity dimension explains why some goals generate more motivation than others. Goals aligned with an athlete's sense of self feel intrinsically motivating. Goals imposed from outside or conflicting with identity feel like obligations. Elite athletes and coaches have learned to align goals with identity, or sometimes to reshape identity to embrace necessary goals. The balance between goal stability and flexibility represents a sophisticated challenge in elite sports. Goals need to be stable enough to provide consistent direction and build momentum, but they also need flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances, new information, or unexpected opportunities. Elite athletes manage this balance through what might be called hierarchical flexibility. Core, long term goals remain relatively stable, providing consistent direction. Short term and process goals adjust more readily based on feedback and circumstances. This creates a system that's both directed and adaptable, maintaining momentum while remaining responsive to reality. The motivational climate created by goal setting approaches has profound effects on athlete development and well being. Environments emphasizing mastery goals, personal improvement, and effort create what researchers call a task involving climate. These climates are associated with higher motivation, better learning, greater enjoyment, and reduced burnout. Environments emphasizing outcome goals, social comparison, and winning at all costs create an ego involving climate. These climates might produce short term performance gains, but are associated with anxiety, fear of failure, and increased dropout rates. Elite training environments have increasingly recognized the importance of climate and structure their goal setting approaches accordingly. This doesn't mean eliminating competition or outcome focus. Elite sport is inherently competitive, but it means balancing competitive elements with mastery focus, ensuring that athletes' worth isn't solely determined by outcomes, and creating psychological safety for risk taking and failure that enables long term development. The interaction between individual and team goals in team sports presents unique challenges and opportunities. Elite teams have learned to create goal alignment without sacrificing individual development. This might involve setting team process goals that everyone contributes to while maintaining individual performance goals. Role clarity becomes crucial in team goal setting. Each athlete needs to understand how their individual goals contribute to team objectives. A basketball player might have an individual goal to improve their assist to turnover ratio, which directly supports the team goal of better ball movement. This alignment creates synergy where individual and team development reinforce each other. The communication patterns around goals in elite teams are sophisticated and intentional. Regular team meetings discuss collective goals. Individual meetings address personal goals. The intersection between individual and team goals is explicitly discussed and negotiated. This transparency reduces conflict and creates mutual support for both individual and collective achievement. Accountability structures in elite goal setting go beyond simple monitoring. They involve regular review processes where goals are not just checked, but analyzed. Progress is celebrated, but also critically examined for lessons. Setbacks are addressed without judgment, but with clear plans for improvement. Peer accountability adds another dimension. Training partners might hold each other accountable for process goals. Team leaders might monitor team goal progress. This distributed accountability creates multiple support systems and prevents goals from becoming purely individual pursuits. The role of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation in goal pursuit reveals important nuances in elite practice. While external rewards and recognition play a role in elite sports, the most successful athletes maintain strong intrinsic motivation, genuine enjoyment, and interest in their sport and improvement. Goals can either support or undermine intrinsic motivation depending on how they're structured and pursued. Controlling goals imposed from outside with attached rewards or punishments can reduce intrinsic motivation. Autonomy supportive goals that athletes help create and that focus on mastery tend to enhance intrinsic motivation. Elite athletes have learned to protect their intrinsic motivation while navigating the extrinsic pressures of professional sport. They might pursue outcome goals for external reasons while maintaining process goals that connect to their love of the sport. They find ways to make even externally imposed goals personally meaningful. The cognitive load of managing multiple goals is a practical challenge that elite athletes must navigate. With process, performance, and outcome goals across multiple time horizons, the mental burden can become overwhelming. Elite athletes develop systems to manage this complexity without becoming paralyzed. Prioritization becomes crucial. Not all goals are equally important at all times. Elite athletes learn to foreground certain goals while others remain in the background. During a technical training block, process goals might be primary. During competition, outcome goals might take precedence. This dynamic prioritization prevents cognitive overload while maintaining comprehensive development. Routinization of goal monitoring reduces cognitive burden. Regular review processes, standardized tracking systems, and habitual reflection practices make goal management automatic rather than effortful. This frees cognitive resources for training and performance rather than goal administration. The integration of goal setting with broader life goals and values adds depth to elite athletic practice. Sport goals don't exist in isolation from life goals. Elite athletes increasingly recognize the importance of alignment between athletic and life goals for sustainable excellence and well being. This might mean setting goals that support both athletic and academic development, or ensuring that athletic goals don't conflict with family or relationship goals, or aligning athletic goals with broader values around health, personal growth, or social contribution. This holistic approach to goal setting supports not just performance, but overall life satisfaction. The retirement transition illuminates the importance of goal setting skills beyond sport. Athletes who successfully navigate retirement often credit their ability to set and pursue new goals as crucial. The goal setting skills developed in sport, setting specific objectives, creating action plans, monitoring progress, adjusting based on feedback, transfer to new domains. But this transition also reveals the identity challenges when sport specific goals no longer provide life structure. Elite athletes must learn to find new sources of meaning and motivation, to set goals in unfamiliar domains, to accept being beginners again. This psychological flexibility in goal setting becomes a crucial life skill. Looking at the cutting edge of goal setting research and practice in elite sports, several trends emerge. There's increasing recognition of the importance of psychological flexibility, the ability to pursue goals while remaining open to experience and adaptable to change. This represents a evolution from rigid goal pursuit to a more nuanced approach that balances commitment with adaptability. The integration of mindfulness and acceptance based approaches with traditional goal setting is showing promise. Rather than seeing goals as fixed endpoints that must be achieved, athletes are learning to hold goals lightly, committed to the process but not attached to specific outcomes. This paradoxical approach might represent the next evolution in elite goal setting. Personalization of goal setting approaches based on individual differences is becoming more sophisticated. Rather than applying universal frameworks, elite programs are increasingly tailoring goal setting approaches to individual personality, learning style, and motivational profiles. This personalization extends beyond content to process, how goals are set, monitored, and adjusted. As we conclude this exploration of elite goal setting, several key principles emerge. First, the superiority of process goals over outcome goals for driving performance improvement. Second, the importance of goal hierarchies that integrate multiple goal types across different time horizons. Third, the crucial role of mastery orientation in sustaining motivation and managing setbacks. Fourth, the necessity of systematic feedback and adjustment rather than rigid goal pursuit. Fifth, the importance of emotional and cognitive mechanisms, particularly self efficacy and emotion regulation, in mediating goal effects. Sixth, the value of collaborative goal setting that respects both athlete autonomy and coach expertise. These aren't just academic findings, they're practical principles that elite athletes apply daily. They represent a sophisticated understanding of human motivation and performance that goes far beyond simple target setting. Elite goal setting is a complex skill that integrates psychological science with practical wisdom accumulated over decades of high level sport. For athletes at any level, the message is clear. How you set goals matters as much as what goals you set. The frameworks and principles used by elite athletes aren't reserved for the talented few, they're accessible to anyone willing to apply them systematically. The difference between elite and recreational athletes isn't just physical ability or training volume, it's also the sophistication of their goal setting systems. The research shows that these sophisticated approaches work. Athletes using structured, multi level, mastery oriented goal setting frameworks show better performance, higher motivation, and greater training adherence than those using informal or outcome focused approaches. The effects aren't small, they're meaningful differences that accumulate over time into the margins that separate good from great. But perhaps most importantly, effective goal setting makes the journey more enjoyable and sustainable. By focusing on process and mastery, celebrating progress and learning from setbacks, creating autonomy, and building self efficacy, elite goal setting approaches don't just drive performance, they enhance the entire experience of sport participation. The science of elite goal setting ultimately reveals that excellence isn't about wanting it more or trying harder. It's about creating sophisticated systems that channel motivation effectively, sustain effort through challenges, and continuously adapt based on feedback. It's about understanding the psychology of human motivation and applying it strategically to unlock potential. Whether you're an athlete, coach, or someone interested in human performance, the lessons from elite goal setting extend far beyond sport. They offer insights into how humans pursue excellence in any domain through systematic, psychologically informed approaches that balance ambition with adaptation, challenge with support, and outcome with process. The elite athletes who stand on Olympic podiums or break world records aren't just physically gifted, they're also psychologically sophisticated, applying scientific principles and hard won wisdom to structure their pursuit of excellence. Their goal setting systems represent the current pinnacle of human understanding about how to translate dreams into reality through systematic, sustained effort. This isn't about making goal setting complicated or academic. It's about recognizing that goal setting is a skill that can be developed, refined, and optimized. Elite athletes have shown us what's possible when goal setting is approached with the same rigor and intentionality as physical training. The principles are clear, the evidence is strong, and the pathway is open to anyone willing to apply these lessons to their own pursuit of excellence. As we close today's exploration of elite goal setting frameworks, let's distill this down to what you can actually implement, whether you're an athlete, coach, or someone pursuing excellence in any domain. The research is unequivocal on several key points. Process goals outperform outcome goals for driving actual improvement. Mastery orientation creates more sustainable motivation than pure ego orientation. Self set or collaborative goals generate higher commitment than assigned goals. And perhaps most importantly, sophisticated goal setting systems aren't about wanting success more, they're about creating better psychological and behavioral pathways to achieve it. If you take nothing else from today's discussion, remember this hierarchy. Start with process goals, the daily controllable actions that build skills. Layer on performance goals, personal standards that mark progress. Then add outcome goals, but hold them lightly as direction rather than definition. This isn't just theory, it's the structure that underlies virtually every elite athletic achievement. For immediate application, consider auditing your current goals through the lens of what we've discussed. Are they specific enough to guide action but flexible enough to adapt? Do they balance challenge with achievability? Are you tracking both process and outcome? Most importantly, are they truly yours or are they goals you think you should have? The emotional dimension can't be ignored. If your goals consistently generate anxiety rather than excitement, if they feel like threats rather than challenges, it's time to recalibrate. The research shows that goals should stretch you without breaking you, motivate without overwhelming, challenge without threatening your core sense of competence. Remember that goal setting is itself a skill that develops over time. Elite athletes didn't start with sophisticated multi level goal hierarchies. They developed these systems through years of refinement, learning what works for their psychology, their sport, their life circumstances. Your goal setting approach should evolve as you do. The frameworks we've discussed, SMART goals, process performance outcome hierarchies, mastery versus ego orientation, aren't rigid prescriptions. They're tools to be adapted to your unique situation. The key is intentionality, approaching your goals with the same systematic attention you'd give to any other aspect of performance. Finally, recognize that effective goal setting isn't about perfection or achieving every goal you set. It's about creating a system that maintains motivation through setbacks, enables continuous improvement, and makes the journey sustainable. Elite athletes fail to achieve goals regularly. What distinguishes them is how they use those experiences to refine their approach and maintain forward momentum. This is Esther Adams with Strides to Solutions. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into the science of elite goal setting. The gap between dreams and achievement isn't bridged by desire alone, it's built through systematic, psychologically informed approaches to goal pursuit. The research shows us what works. Elite athletes demonstrate it's possible, and the pathway is open to anyone willing to apply these principles with consistency and intelligence. Until next time, remember, every elite performance began with a goal, but more importantly, it was achieved through a system. Build your system, trust your process, and let the outcomes be the natural consequence of doing the daily work with intention and intelligence.